My name is Richard Wood. I'm a member of the faculty at the University of New Mexico, recently stepping down as president of the Faculty Senate here at the University of New Mexico. I have a question I'd like to ask and a statement from one of the leaders of the local synagogues. The question is the following. You've spoken against religious hypocrisy, against wolves in lambs' clothing.
Against what?
Wolves in lambs' clothing.
I didn't say that. I didn't say this expression.
Religious hypocrisy, let's say.
Actually, not religious hypocrisy. Because you can say that about any religion. I'm speaking specifically about Sharia legal system.
Do you deny saying the following? And I want to preface this by saying there are profound problems in the Islamic world, as there are profound problems in this country and in Israel. But do you deny saying the following?
I deny
You're quoted on YouTube. There's a film on YouTube of you saying the following.
Yeah.
Islam is a poison to society. It's going to turn us against one another. Islam should be feared, should be fought.
And should be annihilated. I was talking about Sharia.
Islam should be feared, should be fought, and should be conquered. Excuse me? This is a public university. We respect you.
Let me tell you something, sir.
Should be conquered, should be defeated, and should be annihilated. And it's going to happen. I would invite you.
Okay, you ask me
I'm not finished. I have a statement to read from the leader of the local synagogue.
What's your question?
Rabbi Art Flicker asks that the following statement be read.
It's a highly edited.
Our sisterhood at B'nai Israel, now more aware of this person's views, is withdrawing their support. I would appreciate it if you would share these words, if you consider them appropriate. Thank you for your efforts. On behalf of fairness and understanding. The traditions of Judaism teach us to respect the religious perspectives of all and to work with all of God's children in trying to build a world of peace, brotherhood, and sisterhood. Hateful speech is not helpful to create the world God wants for us. Hateful speech is not helpful to build the world God wants for us. We condemn
Sharia law, and they highly edited my speech, removed any reference to radical Islam, removed every reference to Sharia, and made it appear that I am this hate monger. I was speaking in an honor killing rally, a woman who was killed in America before an honor killing, right here in America, and nobody from the Muslim community stood up for this woman. There is a woman, a girl, a 17-year-old girl in America here. Her name is Rifka Barry, who wanted to leave, who lived Islam, and she had to escape her home because she was about to be killed. And I spoke in her rally, and I blamed Sharia, and I blamed the system, and I blamed the system that insult Jews, condemn Jews, call Jews apes and pigs. This is the hate monger, ladies and gentlemen. Even if some Jews don't like what I say, you know what? I have a conscience. And I speak with my conscience. I have seen them killed. I have seen them burned. I have seen them expelled from Egypt by Gamal Abdel Nasser. I have seen their possession seized. I have seen them leave the country with $20 in their pockets, left their property. And my mother used to go to the government auctions. The government auctions that sold the Jewish people's property. sir want to pick a speech in a rally about honor killing that was highly edited. They removed the word Sharia, they removed the word radical, and yes, any law that condemns women to be honor killed must be annihilated.
Yes.
We're talking about honor killing. Yes, sir.
You've given the problem as Sharia law. What do you see as the solution?
That is the $1 million question.
Thank you.
But I want to tell you something. The first thing towards reform is to accept the fact that there is a problem. And that's what I'm doing. I love my people. My whole family is Muslim in Egypt, and they are some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. If you go to Egypt, the people on the street, if you're lost, they will show you the way, and they're very kind. I'm not talking about people. That's what they want you to imagine. That, oh, hate Muslims. My purpose here to be hate Muslims. Who cares? I don't want to hate any group. It's the Muslim religion that hates the Jewish people. Muhammad, when he died on his deathbed, this is what you should stop me. On his deathbed, the Prophet Muhammad said the following: O Muslims, O servant of Allah, if the tree or the rock, if there is a Jew behind the tree or the rock and the tree will call on Muslims and say, O Muslim, O servant of Allah, there's a Jew behind me, come and kill him. There are so many commandments in Islam, whether it's in the Hadith, in the Quran, or in the Sunnah. Commandments, pure commandments to kill Jews. Sir, this is the hate speech, not mine. Yes. I saved myself by coming to America to survive in dignity. And I'm fighting against a law and an ideology, not a people. Shame on you. Yes, sir.
I want to thank you, Nonie. I want to thank you so much for your courage and for doing what you're doing. You're doing God's work. Please don't stop. Please don't stop.
I will never stop. Not even my death warrant is going to stop.
Thank you. And
Are you upset that I have a death warrant on me?
Yes, I am.
By a religion of peace?
Yes.
Are you upset at that?
All right, I do have a question. But I'm going to say one more thing. I'm going to go home and buy them. There's to say I don't have any of your books yet. I'm going to buy every single one of them and read them just to support you. I'm very curious. How did you survive? How did your conscience survive under that environment? And if you don't mind giving some biographical information, how did you make it out of there and become this wonderful person that you are? I'd like to, if you don't mind, if you don't want to.
Thank God for America. Thank God for my Jewish friends. Thank God for my Christian friends. Thank God for all of you who educated me, who made me feel that it's such a shame to insult the Jewish people and call them apes and pigs from the pulpits of mosques. That's not the role of a religion. So this is how it changed. By coming to America, it took me many years, and I never ever stopped one day from thanking America and the system here for saving me, and that's why I'm speaking. It's my payback. It's my thank you to this country. I'm very grateful. Yes.
Hi, my name is George. I'm a Christian from the Middle East. I've witnessed everything you say, so thank you for your courage. It used to be said...
What country are you from?
Lebanon.
Lebanon.
It used to be said, few good men. Now because of you and people like Wafa Sultan, it's a few good women. Thank you for standing for the truth.
For the Christians in the Middle East, you know what happens to the Christians.
Some people have the idea that tolerance is always good. if you see a man beating a woman and you tolerate that man, this is not good. Why I'm saying this because during my stay in Lebanon, I used to be a paramedic, and I've been called many times to take girls to the hospital because they bleeded, and sometimes to death at the age of 9. And I couldn't call 911 because that was legal in Islam. So, no sir, you're wrong. If you're a man, you would say that's wrong. That's intolerance, that's a crime, not what you do.
I like what the professor was saying about free speech. This is a university for free speech.
Absolutely.
And he didn't let you have your free speech. Those people that were here didn't let you have their free speech. And that's why David Horowitz is the hero for your type of people and Coulter. David Horowitz, they have to have security, police guards around them constantly, police there because of free speechers like him and those people.
We heard the background. I was speaking on college campus in Boston University 2 years ago. And right before I was supposed to come and speak, somebody threw burnt toilet paper in the bathroom and smoke came out, and we have to evacuate just to silence me. They want to silence me by any means. They are desperate.
And that's what's going on at these universities today. They're being taken over by not leftists. You can ask David Horowitz. I've been on him since 1989 whenever he gave a speech here. I've been on Front Page Magazine. I'm a writer for the Human Events almost every day. I'm very popular because of what I write and against these universities, which I'm an expert in. And it's not leftist, it's communist. The Communist Party of the United States is the leader of these groups like this. The group right here, I just met him this afternoon. Socialist Party, they meet at the Peace Center. Okay, now, the Peace and Justice Center. Okay, but my question is, I've seen Obama's Cairo speech many times on YouTube. It's about 30 minutes. I'm not going to tell you exactly when, but he starts talking about extremism. And he has a certain face on him before he starts talking about extremism. Can you please look at it again?
I watched it several times.
Okay, whenever he starts talking about extremism is not the way, he says. He's secretly telling them that it is the way because of the way he changed his face. Now my question, there's a lot of people thinking, is he a Muslim? Is he a Christian? What do you think he is?
It doesn't really matter. He supports. It really doesn't matter what Obama's religion is. It's his policies. His policies are so anti-Israel. It's so much for the Muslim Brotherhood. He wants to give them millions of dollars now. While they're saying, let's go get America, let's Islamize the world, let's attack Israel, and he wants to throw money. I mean, frankly, this is the wrong policy. He is on the wrong side of the issues here. It doesn't make sense for me for people who call themselves liberals to defend a religion that condemns gays to death. They're supposed to be the champions of gay rights, the champions of women's rights. And they are fighting me for speaking in a rally on a woman that was honored killed. The same people who would hang Pat Robertson because he's not totally politically correct. But a religion who stands up and put two 14-year-old boys in Iran hanging because they were caught playing doctor. Is that the religion you want me to defend? Islam as it's practiced today I'm not sure about the future. Maybe Muslims will be able to reform their religion. I'll be the first one to congratulate them. If they stand against jihad, against honor killing, against government control of the people, if they reform their religion, I'll be the first one to congratulate them. The whole world will welcome Islam amongst them. Not be afraid of it. Every country in the world is spending billions of dollars every year to protect itself from Islamic terrorism. Don't deny it. You can call it whatever you want to call it. But we have to face the truth. It's not a condemnation of the Muslim people. The most beautiful people are Muslim. It's not the people, it's the ideology. I cannot approve of that ideology as it's practiced today. Today. Reform it, I'll be the first one to move back maybe to the Middle East and live in peace without fear of being killed. Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi, my name is Alan. So I would like to thank you first for coming to UNM. I'd also like to emphasize that I am a scientist, not a political scientist, so I am not in this subject. And with that said, I have two questions.
Can you speak up?
Yeah, with that said, I have two questions. The first of my questions is, you opened your speech saying that you're not speaking against individuals, but rather speaking against an ideology, which is Sharia
and Islam in the government.
Yeah, so, however, all the examples that you gave were of individuals all over the world.
Give me one example.
The honor killings.
The what? The honor killing, it's a phenomenon.
But you're speaking of an individual. So with that
what's the individual? Are you defending the person who got killed or the person who killed?
I'm not. So with that said, my question
Are you telling me I'm speaking ill about somebody? Tell me who.
My question is, what countries, what nations, Muslim nations, follow Sharia law in the world today?
Yeah, there's a lot of Muslims who say there is not one government who applies Sharia. Not even Iran, not even Saudi Arabia. I disagree. There are different levels of applying Sharia, but the problem with Sharia is if it's not applied by the government, it's applied by the individuals. So I could be walking in Egypt, the government might not arrest me for leaving Islam, but I could be killed on the street by somebody who thinks I'm an apostate. And then what happens, the government closes their eyes. Just like honor killing. They give him a slap on the, okay, bye-bye. He caught his wife cheating. He caught his daughter with a boyfriend. That's enough. So that's what I'm talking about.
So I also have one more statement. And this one is directed to George, that was up here before. So I too have seen women mutilated, their fetuses cut out of their bodies and their legs wide open and raped and then massacred and killed. I've seen my grandmother her body thrown into the dumpster in the alleyway. I've seen my cousin, his body still alive, and he was set aflame.
Where?
Set aflame. This was by the Phalanges, the Christian organization in Lebanon. This was by the Israeli military in Lebanon. So it is not only Muslims. It is everybody. So do not go up there and say that there is no... This phenomenon, this was multiple people, this was thousands of people.
Okay, let me ask you your question.
I want to throw this out again. I know you've said this multiple times. You are an idiot. That is it. There's nothing more than that. You are unintelligent. Just because you are from Egypt does not mean you know anything about Egypt.
Okay, let me answer the question. He says that Christians do crime, Jews have crime, Buddhists have crime, Chinese people have crime. Crime is a human phenomenon. The difference is the law. Again, I go back, not to individuals, to the law. In America, there are wives who are being beaten. There are wives who are being beaten. The only difference between a beaten wife in the Middle East and a beaten wife in America is in America, she calls 911. And he's out of the house. There is he's in jail. In the Middle East, it's within his right. law, the legal system. That's what I'm talking about. Just because this law exists, it makes men fall into this sin of beating their wives. It encourages, it's an easy outlet. Because there's polygamy. When they have a problem with their wife, okay, I have another wife. They don't go to counseling like America. No, I'm talking about the legal system. I'm sure there is, in America, people who get killed every day. There are homosexuals who get killed and beaten in America. Is that right? Of course. The law is against it. There's something called hate. And what do you want to do with them? Kill them. And why do you hate them? Because God told us to do that. And where did God tell us to do so? In the Quran. Good girl. This is a true, good Muslim. Do I have to bring these? Go on the internet and watch it. So this is the difference in the upbringing of Arab children and Jewish children. Israel, you can hardly see it on the map of the Middle East. The Arab world is from Morocco, from the Atlantic Ocean, all the way to the Gulf, the Persian Gulf. And beyond that is Islamic countries who hate Israel just because their religion tells them so. Not one of these countries are teaching their kids to love Jews. Actually, one time there was a newspaper, an Arab newspaper, I can't remember what nation, who showed Israelis in a human context, in a picture. Like walking in the street, going to the market, or something like that. And the photographer and the journalist who put it was penalized because how dare he show the Jews in a humane way. They have to be always, in Arab media, they have to be always with a gun next to an Arab kid. They have to always be cartoon showing the blood coming down after they eat the Arab children. So how are you going to balance this? 2 billion are telling their kids kill Jews, and little 5 million Israel is trying to fix it. It's totally unbalanced. And the world is failing Israel. Shame on the West, shame on Europe, and shame on America. We must stand with Israel. All the good and peace-loving people, they must understand why Israel is suffering so much. Even some Israeli people don't even know. And that's a shame.
You were just talking about the bias of the media in the Islamic world, but I was also curious about your opinion of here in the West. There's certainly been, in the past few years, a huge, I would say, rise in sort of censoring of our news here. I mean, there's some things we just don't hear about, and then there's also been other things in which photos or even movies have been proved to have been like doctored to show Israel or the West in a bad light, or put the Islamic world in a good light.
Exactly. This is
And
happening all the time.
these things have been disproven. So, like, we see the initial view of like, oh, this Israeli did something horrible, or this Westerner did something horrible, but then you never get to see the retractions here. I mean, you really have to like look for them. And I just was curious about, what is your opinion about why the complicity of the media here in the States? I mean, is it a fear of like retribution, or even like the fact that we're not hearing anything about what's going on in places like Sweden or the Netherlands, and which, like in Sweden, in the housing developments, ethnically Swedish women have to cover themselves up, just as you were talking about in Islamic countries where Christians have to do this, or they're beaten.
Exactly.
Or,
raped.
Christian
girls are raped all the time and kidnapped.
And these are like, Swedish people in Sweden are being badly raped, and it's against women. Or, we heard only about the assassination of Van Gogh, like months later, understand Dutch and listen to the
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm not saying attack the Muslim to the media. Just report. Report, for example, there's a famous Muslim leader, actually the top Sunni leader in Muslim, his name is Qaradawi. He announced, we're going to take over the USA, we're going to take over the UK, we're going to take over Rome. Why aren't they just reporting on it? Sheikh so-and-so said that so-and-so. Why? If the Pope says something not totally politically correct, he's all over the news very now, it's easy. If a Jewish leader says something not politically correct, he's all over the news attacking him. The West is self-destructive. But if a Muslim leader says something, it's like, I don't see, it's nothing. There was on Al Jazeera, which is the #1 TV station in the Middle East. It reaches America, Al Jazeera. There was a professor, an Arab professor, giving a lecture on TV with a lot of audience sitting. And he was saying, why do we have to spend too much money for terrorism? One person can go across the Mexican border with a little bag with anthrax, go to Washington, D.C., and just sprinkle it around the White House. On national television! Where's CNN? And the audience were laughing. Where? It doesn't make sense to me. It's either the West is suicidal, so self-destructive, or they're pandering for the oil. I have no. Also, there's power numbers. There's 54 Muslim countries, and there's one little Israel. And sometimes our media like to pander to the majority opinion. I really don't understand the dynamic. I don't understand.
My name's Patrick, and I think I represent several people in here who are veterans, and right now while I'm standing here, I would just like to thank you for serving with me. Spent 24 years in the Navy. Against this stuff.
Thank you for your service.
And, my question is, has to do with a young Christian pastor in Iran who's just been sentenced to death by the Islamic Supreme Court for apostasy because he converted to Christianity and is a pastor, and that's the big point of the sign. Is this what we're going to, can we expect more and more of this, not just from Iran, that we know is like that, but these other Islamic countries, is this going to be?
It's more and more happening. Actually, the majority of killing of apostates happen in a very discreet way in Egypt. They arrest apostates not because of apostasy, because they're afraid of international outcry. So in Egypt, what they accuse them with is they accuse them of sedition against the state or treason for political reasons. So this is how they bring them, and they say, you became a Christian, oh, then you're a Zionist. Then if you became a Christian, then you must be friendly with the enemies of the state. So that's how they play the game and actually execute them or put them in jail and kill them on the street. And they say, we don't know who killed them. So that's what's happening most of the time. To try someone like in Iran, this is the exception. This is more honest. And it happens in Iran and Saudi Arabia a lot. Unfortunately, this is what happens all the time. And I'm in contact with a lot of apostates in Egypt. I rescued one from Morocco. And I'm trying, doing my best to help some of them. I get so many calls, desperate calls. Please help me, I want to get out of here, they're going to kill me. They found the Bible under my bed, I don't know what to do. Help me. I get that all the time. It's heartbreaking. I call them on the phone just to comfort them. I talk to them on Skype just to comfort them. I don't know what to do. And the American Embassy is not giving them any visas. That's bad. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Danielle. I'm a recent graduate of UNM, so this is my university. My degree is actually in American Studies and Anthropology, so this is my building. I kind of love it. But I also have to say, I'm 22. I'm probably one of the younger people in this room. And about free speech. Several people have been booed already, and I hope you respect me enough as an audience not to do that. Because again, this is my university. Go ahead.
I'm black for it. Go ahead with this question. As long as it's a reasonable question, that's fine.
Yes. I'm not planning on attacking you. So recently, with the University of New Mexico, I was able to travel the West Bank last May, and I'm greatly honored to be able to do that because I was able to see another part of the world that many people aren't able to see. And we traveled around Palestine and Israel for 10 days, and I have to say, you've talked a lot about different Muslim countries, but you haven't mentioned Palestine at all. I mean, you mentioned Gaza, but...
I've been to the West Bank.
Okay. It's lovely there. It's beautiful. It's also very destitute there because Palestine is a third world country. So I'm also wondering why about a comment you made earlier. If you were Israel, you would continue building fences higher and higher. And I have to say, I've stood in front of the wall. And why would you say something like that?
Because Israel is attacked by 1.2 billion Muslims on a daily basis. And if there are no walls, Israel will end. It's a matter of survival.
They weren't attacked.
If the Arab people put their guns down, there will be peace.
When I went,
the Israeli people,
yes.
Tomorrow. It's the least they can do.
I'm sorry, I'm not brainwashed.
No, go ahead. What's another question? Go ahead. I want you to ask me another question. I think they're justified for the war and more. They should see it completely. Because
how can you say something like that? Because
terrorism comes every long time.
But you stated earlier, it's human rights.
What human rights? It's human rights for Arabs to go in and blow them up?
No, people should not blow people. I mean,
thanks for that. Well, that's what's happening. The Arab people have been blown.
Let's do this, because there are a lot of people that disagree. Let's not attack them. Let's listen.
Please don't.
And let's try and discuss it one-on-one instead of everyone yelling at me.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's try and work it out.
I'm for that. I'm for the fence. I'm for the fence and sealing completely Israel until there is true peace.
But this has to violate human rights.
What human rights are human? Is it okay? The human rights are relative. Is it your right to kill me and I make a fence between me and your house? Totally seal it. If you have attempted, let's say if I have a neighbor and that neighbor attempted to kill me and killed a couple of my relatives several times, I have the right to build a very high fence until that neighbor stops attempts. When the Arab world truly makes peace with Israel, I'll be the first one to stand on that fence and say, bring it down. I'll be the first one.
Next person.
Next.
Thank you. I'm happy with her question because she's asking logical questions and not insulting. So I appreciate it. Do you have any other questions?
No. Thank you for coming to this university. University.
Thank you, sweetheart. And I really understand. Are you Palestinian?
No, I'm Hispanic.
Hispanic.
I'm from New Mexico.
Oh.
Well, thank you
Because
again.
you can pass, if you walk in the Middle East, you can pass as Egyptian, Palestinian.
Yes,
You know
I was confused often.
We're
Stop
all-
at the airport.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. The audience, though, I'm very disappointed in you, though.
Thank you. I will miss you.
It's reciprocated. It's awkward, like, particularly your looks, because I'm, like, younger. But I have a lot of respect for you for coming here, and I'd like to say thank you. My question is, how do you feel about the two-state solution, or what's your opinion on the settlements and the outcome of Israel?
At the two-state solution, what do you think? Frankly, it's not my place to make a decision for Israel security. Israel has to think about its security. Number 1, number 2, number 10, everything. The Arab world, nobody's attacking them. Nobody's attacking. It's always a response to an attack. So it's in the hands of the Arab world to achieve peace. It's in their hands. It's up to them. Whether the Palestinians want to live in a state of their own called Palestine, which never existed, or Israel has to be Israel. Israel is Israel. It's a Jewish state, just like the Muslim world is a Muslim state. The only difference is the Muslim world doesn't allow synagogues in it or churches, but Israel allows churches and mosques in it. So there's a big difference. But the only thing is it going to be viable to have two little areas linked to each other? How they're going to link Gaza? In my opinion, Gaza should be part of Egypt, and the West Bank, whatever is given to them, will merge with Jordan, and that should be the end of it. It's very easy to solve the Arab-Israeli conflict. It's the easiest thing if the Arabs want it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in.
No.
Really admire your courage.
Louder.
Yeah, sorry. I'm going to pepper you with a few small questions here. Just a few quick ones. One, how do you see, I was thought you might talk a little bit about how you see what we're characterizing or calling the Arab Spring. Where do you see this going? I've heard this, and it seems to be panning out this way, that these nations that are going through these uprisings, for whatever reason or whatever mix there are of perceptions and people on the ground, it seems like there's an attempt to try to get freedom, but we don't know what's coming afterwards. But what they end up getting is more Islam, more Sharia law, that actually ends up being more repression than there was before. Is that your perspective?
Yes. I wrote my new book. It's called The Devil We Don't Know, The Dark Side of Revolutions in the Middle East. There's a cycle of revolutions that keep recurring every 50, 60 years in all Muslim countries. Almost all have a cycle of revolutions. And it's not because they have a tyrant, because being a tyrant is part of Sharia. They allow them to be tyrants if they follow Sharia. So Ahmadinejad is the perfect tyrant. Islamic tyrant. He is ruled by Sharia. What happens is Sharia produces a lot of anger inside society, a lot of self-pity, a lot of oppression, and eventually, gradually, this builds up. And over decades, they want to revolt because it becomes unbearable. So they revolt, but they don't revolt on the right thing against Sharia. They revolt against the dictator who happens to be there at that time. And that has happened in 52, it has happened in 1919 in Egypt, in 52, and 2011. The only difference now is there is a good population in Egypt, a minority population who's learning about the outside world. And it's because of the internet, the satellite dishes. You have some Egyptians now who are not accepting this tyranny anymore. They're standing up to the Islamists. But they are the minority. If you put any vote, 75% of the Egyptians want to set in a poll, we want to live under Islamic law. So far, the majority of Egyptians, and actually say about 50% or 60% of Egyptians are illiterate. Illiteracy in their own language. So when we see the power of the people who are intellectuals is very small. But they are gradually learning about the outside world. When I lived in Egypt, there was no satellite dishes, there was no internet. I never knew what's going on. I never knew there was anything called voting. And I was a journalist in Egypt before coming here. I didn't know that we're supposed to vote to elect a leader. Because we didn't see voting. Now they see voting. They see American vote. And they ask, how come we don't do that? How come we don't have votes? So you're seeing gradual change. Egypt is a very old country. Persia is a very old country. It's a 5,000-year history. And to have Egypt in this state after 5,000 years, 3,000 of them, or 4,000 of great history, a superpower, destroyed by Sharia. And to see Egypt at that low level in its power, it proves one thing, that the passage of time does not necessarily mean progress. The passage of time in a country does not necessarily mean improvement. And that's why I'm worried. I'm worried about the West even more than the Muslim. The Muslim world, they have lived this way, they have chosen it. The majority of people have chosen this. The West is being deceived. Being deceived, I'm not blaming the Islamists. It's being deceived by its own media, by its own politicians, by its own intellectuals.
Seems to be the case. I don't know if you saw the video that was put out by the Islamic regime in place in Iran. But there's actually a belief among them, you probably know more about it than I do, that the Islamic Messiah is about to appear, and that one of the things that is necessary as a catalyst to that is worldwide chaos.
Yeah,
and they believe that they can, is it true that they believe that they can actually bring about the coming of this Messiah by bringing the chaos?
Yeah, that's the Shiite sect, it's called the Mahdi.
Yes.
It's totally Shiite ideology. This is not Sunni. So because I was Sunni, most of the Arab world is Sunni, and Iran and Iraq is majority Shiite. So Shiite religion is a bit alien to me, but I know that they believe they can escalate the arrival of their Mahdi by causing chaos in the world. And this is a very dangerous ideology.
And you're being criticized for speaking against
undercurrent
to the ideology itself.
Exactly. I'm not speaking about
That's tragic. Thank you.
I'm speaking about against honor killing. I'm speaking against laws that allow religion to force itself on people by force. Political Islam, becoming a state, that's all I care about. And this threatens the Islamists to the core. And they panic. And they go to the liberals and say, oh, look what she said. She said annihilate. They don't say, I'm talking about an ideology that caused a woman to honor kill, and her picture was behind me as I was standing speaking in a rally in her honor. They took out of context completely and edited out radical and Sharia and kept Islam. So they're desperate. They're desperate because, you know why? Because Islam is Sharia, Sharia Islam. Islam has made Sharia everything. And that's why wherever they go, they say, we want Sharia. In Europe, we want Sharia.
Isn't it true that even Muslims who live here, I'm sure some Muslims would say, well, I don't believe that. I guess I lied. One more question. Isn't it true that they, even if they live here, they want to live under Sharia law, and they believe that Sharia law supersedes the law of the land, our constitution, our local laws? Isn't that true?
Yeah, because they believe that Sharia law is Allah's law. They believe this is what Allah ordered, this is the way Allah wants them to live. And they've been told that you cannot be a good Muslim living under secular law or under the law of Judeo-Christian culture. So this is why they're demanding Sharia here. And they're fighting anybody who wants to expose Sharia. To them, it's a matter of life and death. So what I'm doing is really shakes their core. Shakes the core. Yes?
Hi. I just wanted to thank you for coming out here. I think it's very brave of you. And there's been a lot of speculation lately because of the Iranian nuclear program that Israel will attack Iran. And if they don't, Iran will attack Israel. Do you think that Israel will attack, and if they don't, they're really in danger?
I think they should.
I hope if the world rally around Israel the way they rallied against Libya, if the European countries, America, stand up firm and say, we will stand with Israel if Iran attacks it, and we will have every weapon available to us, we will use it. Iran will feel pressure. Power, just by the West acting powerfully, they can alleviate war. By acting cowardly, you will welcome war. And that's what the West is doing.
Yes.
Hello, I just had one question. I was in Israel, in Cairo, for a month last summer. Oh, my first time. And I had a wonderful experience, but something you said puzzled me because I was able to visit both Christian churches as well as a wonderful synagogue. And in both of those places, I'm a Christian, but in both of those places I was given a wonderful tour and a history of both of those, the church and the synagogue, by the Egyptian Muslims. So
yeah, they don't let Christians do it.
I don't see any.
They don't allow.
I didn't see any burning buildings, any burning churches.
Oh, you go on the internet, you will see. You will see. Let me tell you that about what's happening. Egypt used to be a Christian nation. A lot of people don't know that. In the 7th century, Egypt was totally Christian for 600 years. A lot of people don't know that. So when Islam invaded, it took them many, many years to destroy Christianity. And luckily, there was about 10% of the population in Egypt survived, especially when Islam weakened at the end of the 19th century, early 20th century. Islam weakened. But with the rise of oil, it was resuscitated. And Egypt is very proud to show that we have a synagogue, but we don't have any Jews. There's only 1 or 2 Jews. But this synagogue has been built during the British when they were in Egypt, and they protected all minorities. The churches, now, no Christian in Egypt can build a church without the president's approval. And usually they don't give them permits. But they like to give tourists. We have churches. See, we have synagogues. We're not burning anything. And all of the people who take you on the tour are Muslims. They're never Christians, because the Christians will start talking. We don't know what's happening in Egypt. They had a drive-by shooting, not this last Christmas, in front of a church, with everybody leaving the church at midnight. And they were all gunned down. And until today, nobody is in jail for it. Nobody's in jail for it.
Thank you.
Good.
something that happened recently in the U.S. I don't know if you know Andrew Adler, who's a publisher of a Jewish newspaper in Atlanta, Georgia, wrote an editorial in which he suggested that the State of Israel assassinate President Obama as, well, please let me finish. I agree. That's what I say too. But I want to know what your opinion is.
That's what the state's for?
Yes, so he suggested,
I think
but just let me finish. I'd like to tell you what he said. He said that Israel should assassinate President Obama in order to preserve the state of Israel.
He actually said
right. The other things he said is they could also consider destroying Iran's nuclear capability and attacking Hamas. But I'm already encouraged that you are unhappy about that. And then I'm going to tell you what happens in the long run after you tell me your opinion.
Yeah, well, I would like to read the actual quote because it sounds incredible. I'm surprised he's not arrested.
Well, so I think there's freedom of the press, although I think that's inflammatory speech.
Yeah, if anybody calls for the assassination of the American president, they should be arrested.
So there was a huge, I don't want to interrupt, but there was a huge outcry. And although some people supported him, and he apologized.
There's a lot of crazy people everywhere. If you say the earth is flat, and make a poll in America, you will have probably 92% people who says yes. 92 people say it's round, and about maybe 8% will say yes, it's flat. There is nothing in America, if you take a poll that's 100%, even if it's the most logical. So if somebody says something as crazy as that, you will always find a couple of nutcases who will say, yeah, that doesn't speak for America. I don't think this man speaks for America, or speaks for Christians, or speaks for Jews, or speaks for the state of Israel. This is just a nutcase, and we shouldn't even give him the respect.
But I just want to say, the reason I say this, and to say to everyone here, he's a nutcase. He may or may not be a nutcase. He's a leader of his community. He's a publisher of a Jewish newspaper.
Can you tell me, Josh, the article? Because I'd like to read the quote exactly. I'm not the kind of person who takes a word and fly with it. I like to get the article and read it for myself.
I appreciate that. Exactly. But just let me say that I agree with this up, and I appreciate your response, and it makes me feel
really shocked
because I think that I just want to make a point that there are extremists. We're lucky because in the U.S. people usually don't accept this, and we have a diverse society where people always call people out. And I realize it's not everywhere, but there are people like this in every country and in every society, and I think that we need to really criticize the extremists. And I agree that we need to criticize the extremists in the Islamic world. I think there are also extremists in this country, in Europe, and in Israel, who I also don't agree with.
I am not criticizing Islamic extremists. Again, I'm criticizing the ideology and Sharia law. Again, I'm not even because the extremists are following Sharia.
I just think we have to criticize this kind of speech.
I wanted him to pick up the trash, so I'm gonna hop in and tell people that they're gonna pick up.
I'm gonna make 2 announcements, so I'm gonna make sure that 1 announcement.
Tell them there'll be 2 trash barrels by the door, so just pick up the trash.
Thanks for the reminder.
Sponsor of this event.